Hey friends, and welcome to this video where we'll go over UX writing examples to inspire you. We can learn just as much from the good examples of UX writing as we can from the bad. Understanding what not to do can add an extra layer of context to teach us what a great user experience looks like. So let's go ahead and get started. So who says UX writing is only for digital products? We can find tons of creative examples from copy on physical products as well. Candy Kittens, a London-based gourmet company, actually hides some cute copy inside its product for its curious customers. You cannot help but smile at this, right? Any product out there can be made more exciting and fun with a little bit of the right words at the right time. Microcopy is about guiding users across a product and telling them how to use it. Simple instructions written in a conversational tone can go a long way. Unfortunately, here the product assembly instructions are neither of those things. If we look at this copy, the expected time for this product is 1 hour depending on the individual's manipulative ability. It sounds pretty strange, right? What does it mean by manipulative? That word has many negative connotations. Also, it can tend to offend those who take more than 1 hour. What we've learned so far is to never make users feel bad about anything. Now, how can we make this copy better? If we say something like, it usually takes 1 hour to assemble this. This ticks all the boxes of simple, concise, conversational, and of course, useful. Let's look at another bad example of UX writing, one which uses a dark pattern to deceive users. Now, dark patterns are elements of product design created to make users do things they may not want to do. So actions that benefit the business only, not the users. Products that use dark patterns create a deceptive design, a design that nudges the user to make decisions they don't want to make. It's quite the opposite of what UX writers should strive to do, which is creating transparent, user-centered designs. So The Economist, a famous news website, tries to trick their users into granting permission for cookies. It does so by making the accept all CTA more prominent than its counterpart. Although these tactics may prove effective in A/B testing, they're still bad UX and should not be followed at all. Giving users full control is what good UX writing and design is all about. Here's a great subscription modal microcopy from Microsoft. The heading is concise and to the point, which is how the voice and tone of Microsoft is. The subheadings address the user's concern in the best way possible. It tells users quickly what will happen with each option. In subscriptions, users are concerned about when they will be charged, and if they cancel their subscription, what will they have to do? So Microsoft must have done great user research here, as this microcopy does a great job of relieving users of those concerns. And this is just another reason of why user research should never be ignored in UX writing. Now, looking at the CTAs are written after what they do, keeping subscription cancel subscription. Also notice that the CTA of cancel subscription is highlighted, which is helping the user achieve their goal instead of deceiving them like in our previous example. Overall, this is the epitome of a clear, concise, and useful microcopy. Another great example is from a shipping company called Pirate Ship. If you're looking for a great on-brand copy, it really doesn't get better than this. Here, the voice is of a pirate, and the clever greeting and the funny CTA copy just might be what the user needs and the person reading this to make their day and make them laugh, smile, and go through this journey with a great experience. It's a great example of how to use humor in your microcopy. Ever get tired of receiving unwanted notifications? Well, there's something more annoying than those, and those are notifications that make you feel bad. MyFitnessPal tries to nudge its users to engage with the app when they clearly don't want to, and also ends up slapping their motivation, which is just not cool. The app could definitely have taken a better approach here, especially when it comes to informing the user like they're doing here that notifications have turned off. Also, some basic things here is that the app shouldn't take the action of turning off the notifications in the first place. The user should always be in control of managing their notifications. A better approach here would be to give the user the option to turn off the notifications and also improve the copy with something like, would you like to stop receiving reminders? This is much better language than the current copy because it is more concise and friendlier. And then we have Nordstrom, an online luxury store, changes its copy depending on the time of day. At night, the prospect sees a better than counting sleep copy on the checkout page. It's pretty funny. Nordstrom knows that many of its customers do midnight shopping, and that's why it took their time to delight its users with their checkout experience. And this is another good example of how to execute humor in copy. Now, this one is more of a design flaw than a copy here. A user has gotten their COVID test back, which came negative, but the copy of negative is in green, indicating a positive test. This can be super confusing to the user. The design and the copy should always complement one another. And if it doesn't, well, it's just going to throw them off. So otherwise, what ends up happening is the user can end up getting frustrated, and you really have to dive into their shoes and build empathy and try to be honest with them in order to get that trust there, which is one of the goals of UX writing. Here's an example of an authentically written modal that comes when the user has an ad blocker. It tries to relate with the user by leading with the headline that reads, "Dislike intrusive ads," because that's probably what the user is thinking. In the body section, the microcopy tells the user that the website uses fewer ads and only runs those fewer ads to keep everything going smoothly. It's super conversational, honest, and just might nudge the user to disable the ad blocker without using any dark patterns. Sometimes UX writers can also be responsible for writing emails. It clearly shows in this email copy from Wise, which informs the user about their increasing exchange and trading rates in the most humble and reassuring way. First is the headline of the email, which informs the user upfront about what to expect from the email. And this is a great start. In the body, it tells the user that they feel sad about these fluctuations, will bring the price down as soon as they can. It's a great example of breaking bad news to the user. The fees went up, but the user understands why, what to do now, and what to expect next. The last thing anyone expects is to receive a Valentine email from their banking app. Here, Revolut cautions its users of scams in a humorous way through a fun poem. Revolut is known to have a quirky voice and definitely plays on it here. Although humor should be used carefully, especially in an industry like fintech, it works because of two reasons. The first is that the brand's voice is not plain and simple, but is fun and refreshing. The second is that this email is not giving any bad news to the user. It's just wishing users a happy Valentine's Day. Now moving on to another sad little example of a dark pattern, Saatchi Art, an online art buying service, tries to trick its users into subscribing to their email list through confirm shaming. Confirm shaming is the act of guilting the user into opting into something. The option to decline is worded in such a way as to shame the user into compliance. This is just not nice. The most common use of this practice is to get a user to sign up for a mailing list, and it is often found in exit intent modals and other pop-ups. A better approach would be to just keep the second CTA as no. Most of the time, less is the way to go when it comes to UX writing, especially when more is harming the user experience. And do you remember which type of microcopy this is? That's right, it's the waiting time microcopy. This is where you can get creative and really inform the user about what's happening in a fun way. Unfortunately, WordPress here fails to do so. Now, the user is in the process of installing a template for their website, and this usually takes a while and involves a lot of steps. So it's not a good idea to leave the user hanging without any additional information. WordPress could have gone further and said more than, "Don't worry, this won't take long." The user wants to know what the system is doing, and getting that information relieves them even if it might take really long. A better approach here would be letting the user know which components of the template are ready or which ones are being worked on. A percentage timer could also have been useful here. The design should always keep users informed about what is going on through appropriate feedback within a reasonable amount of time. And when users know the current system status, they learn the outcome of their prior interactions and determine next steps. Predictable interactions create trust in the product as well as the brand. In a perfect world, systems would load so fast that users would never see a loading message. However, our ambitions and our reality don't always match up here, to say the least. So what do users see while a system is loading? Well, these screens are often forgotten and show a boring and uninformative "please wait." And yet, this is a great place to put animation and let the microcopy writer take a nap. But if you want to make your users feel happy and connected, you'll keep them in their seats and also give them the chance to shine. Looking at our second example of waiting time microcopy, which does things right here, the video editing tool Magisto is doing a brilliant job. They inform the user at every stage what they're doing so their users don't have to guess. And now on to one of my favorite companies, which is really good at creating great microcopy, which is Typeform. Here, it shows up when you've reached the end of a list of available icons to select from with the phrase, "That's all, take your pick." Such microcopies are a treat to the eye and help make the product more engaging and fun. So nudging the user towards action in a conversational way is always better than plain and simple copy. If there are any gamers here, then they will have to know how fun Discord can be. After all, it's a platform targeted towards gamers. So they would be wasting a huge opportunity of connecting with their audience by not being playful with their writing. Proving you're a human when logging in or signing up is a huge pain. Discord tries to reduce some of that frustration through a playful copy that mimics a robot. Here's another great example of microcopy as well during account creation. Many people have the habit of reusing their passwords from different accounts. And this website tackles that issue in a creative way and makes a fun experience out of it. Their honesty and great sense of humor is really refreshing. And when communicating with users, it's essential to talk in their language and words. And using words that are not used in everyday life can sound confusing to the users. This is exactly what happened here during the verification process. It says, "Do not challenge me on this device again," which sounds awkward and unconversational, right? It gives off that vibe that verification is a very challenging process. Even if the process is challenging though, we would want to reduce any stress experienced by the user. A better approach here can be, remember this device in the future. After all, the reason for the verification code is that the system doesn't recognize the device. So addressing that issue with improved copy is definitely better than the current copy. Our next example is a great empty state microcopy from LinkedIn's messaging. It gives useful info using positive language with an actionable CTA and a nice illustration to go with it. Sometimes less is definitely more, as in the case it is here. And if you have ever struggled to come up with a creative microcopy for a product, try to keep things light, as LinkedIn does in this example. Some food for thought: no one has ever complained about the lack of humor, but many do complain about lack of useful microcopy, like our next example. What is a token? Where do I get one? How long is it? All these are questions that will go through a user's head when they land on this screen. Sadly though, there is no microcopy here that will eliminate the user frustration. As a last resort, the user will probably have to Google the solution themselves. A better approach here though would be to inform the user what a token is, where it can be found, and maybe a placeholder with its format so they can see what a token looks like. And this will answer all the questions in a user's mind to make for a pleasing user experience. And now we have Asana. And in Asana, during the sign-in flow, users get a magic link as part of the authentication flow. They can use this magic link to log in faster without typing in their password. It's very concise, playful, and above all, very helpful. And their copy resonates with exactly what they're trying to get the user to do. The heading is accurate as well, informing the user of the benefit at first. And Asana's voice and tone is very similar to Slack, and that is another reason to love them. UX writing is not only about copy, but also about design. A bad design can turn users away from the product. That is the case with this chatbot script design. The bot doesn't take 1 for an answer as if it always expects to get a 5. When the user is frustrated with their chatbot experience, the last thing they want is to be unsuccessful in giving feedback. Now, here we have SoundCloud, a popular music streaming service. It plays nicely on words when encouraging the user to download its app. The heading is clear and gives the benefit quickly. The real gem lies in the body section, which is keep tabs on your tracks without keeping track of your tabs. And this is one of these microcopies, which is so clever, you can't help but be a little bit in awe. And it's amazing how microcopy can find its place in places where no one expects. This is definitely one of those places. And here, Fiverr tries to come off as fun and refreshing to its potential recruits by having harmless fun in their job posting. Applying for a job can be frustrating. Fiverr does a great job of diffusing that tension. It uses pop culture to connect with its applicants and give them a taste of what it would be like to work at one of the top companies when it comes to freelancing platforms in the world. Now, as you probably know by now, Slack has a team of UX writers who are amazing, and their release notes show that. Slack reminds its users that mental health is also important as people work tirelessly in front of their screens. It talks to its users like a best friend would. Slack could have gone with no updates, yet it goes creative here and makes its users feel valued. Now we have Spotify's Wrapped feature, which allows users to look back through their last 365 days through the songs and artists they listen to the most. And Spotify lets its users know that although 2021 was a tough year for everyone, the music was still awesome. And every microcopy should make the user feel better. Now, ever accidentally close a browser tab? Yep, we've all been there, and Google Chrome knows this. Chrome conveniently gives a tip on how to reopen an accidentally closed tab. Now, looking at the headline, it is simple and to the point, which is expected from Google. God, I closed the wrong tab. Google gets into the mind of its users and writes exactly what they must be thinking when they accidentally close their tab. I usually say something like, but God is pretty close. Next instructions are also crystal clear. There's even a keyboard shortcut included in the tip and a link to see more Chrome tips. Without this microcopy, people would probably have to take a very long route to reopen their tab. So kudos to the Chrome team here. Now this example is very interesting. How do you stop someone from thinking about something? Well, definitely don't tell them to not think about it, right? That reverse psychology, it can be pretty rough. This is what the app does here. It inspires curiosity in the user to not try the new feature. It does so in such a playful way that the user will definitely want to know what the feature is about. The user in this way gets nudged to try the new feature by following their curiosity, which I think is pretty cool. And here the educational platform EDX asks for personal data to help them get smarter. When writing microcopy, we should always focus on the benefit of the user and the customer. There's nothing in it here for the user to share something that is also personal. A better approach would be to tell users that this data will help the platform improve user experience. In this way, they are more likely to fill out the form. Now, BBC is a popular news channel and it should never come off as confusing or condescending. We would hope. However, it does both. The heading is not clear, and in the body it takes on a condescending tone that is very different from its usual voice. A better approach would be to make the heading clear and remove the playfulness from its body. And here, Twitter combats fake news from the ground level with this brilliant microcopy. When a user tries to share an article they haven't read, Twitter displays this confirmation modal. Because usually when people share things they haven't read, they have the potential to be misleading. As Twitter is built around sharing authentic news that's happening around the world, this confirmation microcopy is a great way to keep their platform as authentic as possible. The heading is clear, the body is concise, and the CTAs are useful. And we have an example where a therapy app should know better. A potentially offending microcopy like this can really damage someone's mental state. It's not motivating at all, which should be the objective of this app. A better approach can be something like, "You're still doing great." This sounds much more positive, motivating, and reassuring. And here we have Dropbox, which is another brand like Slack that likes to have fun with its writing. We all know how hard it is to wait while our files are being moved. Most people get off their screens and often will just go do something else with their time. And Dropbox plays around that by telling users to go grab a Snicker, so something fun and catchy. And here, this microcopy is from tvline.com, right above their comment section. It tells the user to avoid talking on topics not relevant to TV in a fun way. Reading this will definitely promote engagement in the comment section. And our CTA is also to be loved, which is not the classic submit button. And here we have another playful example. Shutterstock, a royalty-free images website, nails it with their brilliant pun of royalty-free images while showing royalty. Using puns is a great way to instantly capture the audience's attention and really get a bit of laughter out of them. But always keep in mind the localization when writing puns in microcopy. UX writers can make the most of their words. They also get creative with placeholders on 404 pages, waiting times, and empty states. In this case, LinkedIn encourages the users to type comments by providing comment intro suggestions, including thank you for, interest, I like, what about, and more. If there was a big corporation that needs to up its UX writing, it would be Microsoft. Microsoft has indeed come a long way from serving us those frustrating error messages, but it still needs to put some work into its writing. In some places, Microsoft can do much better, like here. Now, how often do people really talk about operating systems? Rarely. Instead of writing, how likely are you to recommend Windows 10 to a friend or colleague? Maybe go with something more relatable, like, do you think Windows 10 would be a great OS for your friends or colleagues? Let's look at another bad example from Microsoft. Great UX writing is not only about writing epic microcopy, but also keeping in mind how to design content effectively. Desperately short of on-screen real estate, Microsoft decided to put delete and resolve inside a menu. The space was mostly taken up by an edit button whose function could have been replaced by clicking on the comment text. This small content design flaw turns resolving a comment from a 0.25 second job into a 2-second job. This is hectic, especially for those that have to approve 500 to 1,000 comments in a day. The design can be improved by putting the edit option inside the comment section and the resolve thread and delete thread options at the top. It would save the editors one step, leading to a time-saving UX. Another content design flaw example comes from none other than the biggest content streaming platform. Netflix here shows how much copy placement matters. Their plans focus on video quality now instead of device limits, but the device limits are still applicable, and this info is only found at the changing plan screen, and even that microcopy is at the very bottom and hard to read. If Netflix is deliberately hiding such information, then that would fall under a dark pattern, which is not expected from the streaming giant to say the least. A better approach would be to include the device limit information under the current plan so the user can know how many devices they can use on their plan. And the nonprofit instant messaging service Signal lets users choose which people and groups to get notifications from and does a good job communicating the benefit of creating a profile. It's simple yet effective. It's another example of why less is more in UX writing. And MailChimp is one of the best examples of how to use voice and tone in its products. It has funny, humorous, goofy characteristics in it. During the sign-up process, MailChimp channels its playful side. When a user enters a username that matches with another user, it tells the user that maybe it's their evil twin. And again, another example from Slack. Slack's writing is fun but useful in a professional working industry. It brings the case forward that work doesn't always have to be boring. And this time we look at an error copy from Slack. Slack here remains conversational like they always do and informs a user that they also don't know what caused the error. The troubleshooting steps are also given in the microcopy along with a link to contact Slack, which is super helpful as well. And Slack is great at this. They're like having a business partner who's also your childhood friend. And their microcopy inspirations never really cease to amaze. And that's it. We just covered a number of UX writing examples to help give you a better idea of how to craft your own copy. And if you want to take your UX writing skills to the next level, make sure to go ahead and check out our UX writing certification course on Technical Writer HQ. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you feel like you got a lot of value from it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos about technical writing, UX writing, and much more. And I wish you the best in your UX writing journey. Cheers.